And now let's talk about the Legal Defense Fund. My opponent's offering you all a free legal defense fund. I'm not quite sure how much background she has in free legal defense funds, but I do have a lot of background in that. I was part of the committee that oversaw the union's creation of a legal defense fund back in the Social Service Employees Union in the 1970s. We created a legal defense fund because we had a lot of people getting arrested for one thing, and you needed to have some lawyers in those situations, so creating a legal defense fund seemed like a good idea. We also, as time passed, decided, well, maybe we would allow the lawyers to get involved with other stuff like making wills and also doing things like divorces and possibly house closings and a whole wide variety of services. The Legal Defense Fund grew quite generously, quite widely. In fact, one of the individuals involved in that particular Legal Defense Fund was a young lawyer at the time named Stu Salas. And it turns out that Stu Salas was a part of my opponent's campaign team from the very first day, because when we first heard about her campaign, by them sending us all their plans to the union office by mistake, Stu Salas's name was prominently displayed. And Stu Salas was one of the individuals involved in running the SSEU Local 371 Legal Defense Fund way back at the beginning, although eventually he and his partner pulled out of it and got a cash settlement from Merkin, Boss, Salston, and Gordon, who thereafter ran the entire thing. Legal defense funds are pretty good if you need some help from a lawyer. However, they're not really all that cheap. They're not cheap for a few reasons. The first one is that the original goal was that it should be free, but that got changed along the way as they began adding co-pays under the logic that we could provide more services if, with the same amount of money, we also were allowed to charge co-pays. So you could sometimes walk in and get a legal service, but there'd be a co-pay attached, which would be sizable. Things got a bit worse yet when it turned out that the source of the money, which was from the union's income to its welfare funds, was now going to be changed in status by the Internal Revenue Service. So they would now turn around and they would offer you the service, but they'd also have to send you a W-2 at the end of the year as if you'd been paid money, but you hadn't been paid the money had been paid by the welfare fund on your behalf to the legal panel. So if they gave you something worth $300, you'd get a W-2 for $300. If they gave you a service that they valued at $500, they'd send you a W-2 for $500. So you were getting the service, but you were now possibly paying a copay and definitely getting a W-2, so you had to pay taxes on it. Now at the income level of my average member, that's significant because our taxes based upon our income is really at a pretty high rate. So that does matter. It was largely because of that change in tax rules that the organizational staff analysts, until just now, had never seriously considered using our welfare fund to pay for legal services. First, because we knew very well they wouldn't be free, as is being advertised right now by my opponent. But secondly, because we also knew that it was an imprudent use of the money for all the reasons that we understood altogether too well from other unions' experience. And once you put a benefit out there, you don't want to take it back, so that tends to be written in stone. Instead, we did come up with a legal panel of sorts of our own, only it's not paid for out of our welfare fund, and it's not paid for out of your dues either. It's paid for by you. If you think you might be needing a lawyer at some point and you want to feel secure, you can sign up for a Met Law. Now, Met Law will in fact cover you for a wide variety of legal services. I'm sure there are legal panels to cover you for even more services than that. But it's a whole page full of services. You need a will, you can get a will. You have some problem with this group or that group, legally, you're okay, you're covered. It goes on and on about what coverage you get. But you pay for it. You pay, I think it's $19.95 a month for that service. I believe they take it out of your payroll deduction, so you maybe don't notice it that much, but you do pay for it, and then you have these lawyers on call for you, which is a good thing, especially if you need a lawyer. But if you don't think you need a lawyer, or if you have a lawyer in the family, or any number of other reasons why you don't have to pay for it because you don't sign up with Met Law. And that's how we handled this. We made it optional for those people who think that they might need a lawyer, and we didn't say it was free. We did find a place where it wasn't going to be really high cost, and where it had a pretty good reputation, and we have had no complaints since then about our use of the program. So in one sense, this is kind of interesting. My opponent is offering you a free legal panel, which every other union has, and why haven't we got it? Well, we have something very similar. And in fact, you could even argue for our needs even better. But that's the legal panel.